All right, I'm going to see if I can capture some information here based on some conversations we just had with some people that we care about. Just had a really good visit with what I consider to be some family. And Ian and Malia, this is kind of inspired off of you guys and your family. So anyway, of course, we're all trying to do the best we can with what we have, trying to make real food work in this modern lifestyle. And I'm really proud of Ian and Malia for what they're doing. Ian's seeing some tremendous results and transformation. Malia is seeing some of it, but also kind of struggling. She's having just the normal transitional difficulties that a lot of us have sometimes when we start to eat real food. And so we just did this really cool little summary of what it is we're trying to do, and I just want to share a little bit of that with y'all. And make a plug for how important it is that we do this for ourselves and also for our kids. So, as we're trying to be as happy and healthy as we can possibly be, and we're trying to live the most amazing life possible, we know that it starts with health. When you find health, you find yourself. That's why we're fighting so hard to try to figure all this stuff out. And when it comes to nutrition, the first step is always choosing things made with the right ingredients. You have to scrutinize labels. You have to avoid the things that we know are worthless and toxic. And there's a lot of those things, but the big ones are going to be wheat, soy, corn, and then highly processed oils, like vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, and stuff like that. And if we're avoiding those things, that's a big win. Choosing what we call SHT approved options over toxic versions of those things, like better chips, better condiments, better desserts, and things like that. But eventually we want to move towards being a real foodie. That's where all the magic happens, meaning that the majority of what you consume is animal meats, traditional fats, nutrient-dense vegetables, a little bit of greens, a little bit of starch, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of honey. And if you can move in a direction of doing that, you're going to look, feel, and perform amazing. You're going to have awesome health markers for the rest of your life. And then we just want to make sure that we're aware of our carbohydrate consumption, just being slightly strategic with it without being too neurotic about it, and then allow periods of space and not eating, because when you don't eat, that's where the magic of life happens. When you don't eat, that's where fat burning happens, and that's where health happens. That's where all the healing happens. And that doesn't mean you need to force not eating. It doesn't mean that you need to force starvation. It just means that we need to embrace periods of not eating naturally and not graze all the time, and just be aware of that, right? I think the easiest thing for most of us to do is to skip breakfast and just have some natural fat burning in the morning. And as we're doing this, we have to be easy on ourselves and understand that there is a transitional adaptation that happens for all of us. It's difficult. And we have to see the light at the end of the tunnel and understand that the fog will lift at some point, and life will open up in a way that we never even knew was possible because of the clarity and vitality that we have from the power of real food and the power of training your body to be metabolically flexible. And so whatever we have to do to figure that process out for ourselves as adults is extremely important, because then the next step, this is what we were talking about together, once we relatively figure this out for ourselves, which is an ongoing process and a lifelong journey for sure, but once we feel that and experience it as adults, we have to have this intention to pass it on to our kids, because otherwise our kids are going to be in the same positions that we are now, having to try to undo and correct and find some kind of happiness in themselves in the midst of not being healthy or overweight or whatever those things are. And so we can do that now with our kids. We can find a way to empower our kids now with the experiential knowledge and the understanding of again, the power of real food. And that's got to be our ultimate long-term vision and mission. And if you want to do that together, we have an amazing freaking community at community.superhumantransformation.com, and this is what we are doing in there. We are empowering our people to live the most amazing lives possible for themselves, and then also for their kids in the future. I think that captures everything I was trying to say. Is that all right? Anything I missed? It's a very good point. Now I'm trying to figure out if I want to add that to it or if I want to redo the whole thing. All right, so one other thing we were just talking about. We want to do this for ourselves and our family because it's the right thing to do, and we want long-term health and better quality of life. We want to age gracefully with the people that we care about, right? And it's a heck of a lot easier in a household that's not divided. So if you can get your kids on board, and your spouse and your partners and the people that you live with, it's so much easier. And it's really, once you get into it and figure it out and experience it, you'll find it's actually very simplistic and elegant, and it limits your decisions, which is a good thing. And it's an amazing way of living and eating, but definitely easier if the whole family's on board, including the kids, especially the kids. And by the way, this is another plug that I made for the kids. When your kids learn how to be real foodies, they will be different from other kids out there. They will be completely different. They will just seem different. I remember, years ago when my sister first started implementing real food with her family because her daughter has a rare autoimmune condition, it was just so obvious being around other families that these kids are different. They're not irritated, agitated. They're very curious. They're very fun. They're very outgoing. But there's just something different about them. They're different. They're super kids. And that's what can happen for your kids as well. If you get this instilled in them early, they know it, they feel it, they experience it, and they're different from everyone else out there. They're on another level. And that's what happens. That's it. So the plug is, get yourself figured out, get your kids on board, get your family on board, because real food is good for everyone. And if you need support and you need to learn how to do it, join our community at community.superhumantransformation.com, because that is what we are doing in there, and it's an amazing place. That's all I got.